WWE firmly on the road to WrestleMania. They had their big kickoff events last week in Las Vegas, which, by the way, was hosting something I forget. Oh, yeah, Super Bowl 58. And man that was there joins me now. Usually, I'm there with him. But this year, of course, couldn't make it. But he's kind enough to come on and tell us about it and talk all things WWE. From Pro Wrestling Talk STL, my good friend Joe Roderick. Joe, you survived Vegas. Biggest guest you got on Radio Row.
I mean, biggest guest for the people that listen to me in St. Louis would have had to have been Kurt Warner. Just having him on talking Torrey Holt, talking about just Super Bowl memories with him. So that's always a big one. That's always one that people love to hear. Whenever Kurt's on, they listen. So that's what I would have to say was the biggest guest that I had on last week. It's nice not having to fill 20 hours of airtime a week and just being podcasting. I cut back significantly on how many interviews I do on Radio Row Week.
Yeah. Well, that was always the thing. You know this, about 3-4 weeks out, I would start emailing all our PR friends and like Ivan Sokolsky and Jimmy Shapiro and all those guys, and try to start booking. And now of course I was booking for radio shows at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, did you hit the? So I saw pictures I saw from our friends at the Sports Star in San Antonio. They had slot machines in Radio Row, actually in where you were broadcasting. Did you hit the slot machines?
I think for the week, I think I lost like $20. I don't gamble. I don't. I hate losing money. I'm mad that I lost $20. So it was
that way too. I don't know. It's weird, but I'm the same way. I may play video poker, but that's it.
Yeah. I one night went with a few people to Fremont.
Yeah.
And we played some horse racing game. That was it. And that was about the extent of the gambling I wanted to do. Like, talking to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, we did the $25 blackjack." I'm like, God, I would have, like, if I would have lost my first hand of that, I would have been like, "Okay, I'm done. See you guys." Like, I would have left.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, no, that's not for me.
Yeah. One other radio before we get to the wrestling. One other radio. So I had the media party on Tuesday. It was at the F1 facility there in Las Vegas, where they do the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And I saw a few pictures. I was jealous because, of course, we host the United States Grand Prix here in Austin at Circuit of the Americas. So I would have loved to see that facility. Give me your take on that F1 facility that's set up there in Las Vegas.
It was big. It was a big place. It was raining that day, so I think that significantly changed some of their plans. It felt like there should have been more there, and there wasn't. And I have a feeling it's because of all of the rain that they were getting early in the week that they either cut back or changed the layout of some of it. So I don't know if we got the full experience like they might have planned.
Yeah, I mean, it popped in my mind about maybe doing some hot laps, but you couldn't do hot laps because the streets aren't blocked off, because they run an actual street course in Las Vegas, as opposed to what we have here in Austin with the purpose-built F1 track that isn't on a street. It's actually built for F1. Of course, we ran NASCAR, IndyCar, V8, Supercars, all the different series there. So, but that looked really cool, and I would have loved to cool that. All right, let's get to WWE. You were at the WrestleMania Kickoff event at T-Mobile Arena on Thursday. Did you get the sense that even before going, did you have a sense that it was going to be less of a press event and more of just a WWE, making the big splash in the Super Bowl city?
So going into it, I was not expecting to walk away, and we'll get into all the details of it. I was not expecting to walk away just in shock, in awe of everything that I just witnessed. I was not expecting it to be that newsworthy of an event. I don't know what I was expecting. I thought maybe they were going to announce at some point that Vegas was getting Super Bowl or WrestleMania 41. I thought maybe that would have been part of it. They have not. They haven't announced where WrestleMania 41 is, but I really don't know what I was expecting to come out of it. But I think you saw at the end, WWE has now realized that they can capitalize on all of the media that's there in a WrestleMania, in a Super Bowl town. And I would imagine this is going to be an annual event now that they are going to have in some capacity to give them an extra day of media. I mean, it's similar, Stu, I think now to you. I mean, you talk NFL. You know how big of a deal the schedule releases in the NFL. It gives you something to talk about in May when there is no NFL. And it gives you something to talk about for a couple days. I think WWE found their schedule release where they don't have TV on Thursday. It is that, there are other things they could be promoting. And after that was over, they were the talk of Super Bowl week for a couple days. And they had full control of the news cycle. And kudos to them for continuing to just have the Midas touch with whatever they seem to be doing, even when it starts off as going as terribly as I think The Rock's initial plan was.
Yeah. I wonder, and you can speak to this. I wonder what took WWE so long to figure that out. You and I have been talking forever about why wrestling companies do not take more advantage of Super Bowl week. Whether it's, I remember trying to get Ring of Honor way back in the day. They were running shows in Texas. This was it was 51 actually, Super Bowl 51 in Houston. I was trying to get Ring of Honor to come down because they were running shows in Texas the weekend. I kept saying, why don't you guys bring the champions, bring a couple guys and do Radio Row? You've got 200 radio stations, free publicity. All it takes, is to get on here. And yet it feels like wrestling has avoided Super Bowl week for some odd reason. And now this year, you finally got WWE figuring out, hey, we could take advantage of having all this media in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl and, ramp up and promote WrestleMania. You even had AEW running a collision nearby Henderson at the Dollar Store Center or something like that. Why do you think they've avoided Super Bowl week for so long?
I just don't think they realized the significance that they could have gotten from it. I don't think they realized the exposure they could have gotten. And not to toot my own horn, but that same Houston Super Bowl, Stu, I worked with Chris Nowinski to bring Booker T onto Radio Row that week. I got Booker T a day pass to come there. And before he even made it to my table, was stopped by like 3 or 4 other people to come there, to where I had to step in front of one. And I was like, hey, he's my guest. I brought him here. Like, you can have him afterwards.
Yeah.
Type thing. Like I was kind of a jerk. And it was because I was, I'm the one that brought him to that. And then the following year, I brought Animal to Radio Row up in Minnesota.
I remember vividly.
And that went incredible with the way he made the rounds. So
it was really incredible. He and I spent a lot of time chit-chatting about
So I think you kind of, and then the year after in Atlanta, that year. I mean, Ken Shamrock was there, DDP was there.
Right.
I got Tony Schiavone booked for it.
That was the year that we did that. My friend TJ McAloon ran the 2 wrestling events
Yeah.
in Atlanta, and we brought in a bunch of guys from Texas and brought in, like you said, Tony Schiavone and DDP, Ken Shamrock, Filthy Tom Lawler, and then the Young Bucks were there, and Cody was there, and this was like right after the birth of AEW. We started seeing those guys, and so it's just funny, and but yeah, I got a feeling you probably will see a WWE presence next year. The Super Bowl's in New Orleans, and I'm telling you now, I'm going to do my best to find an outlet to where, because I love New Orleans and I can drive to New Orleans. I'm 8 hours. I can drive to New Orleans, so I got a feeling WWE is going to figure out. Yeah, they're going to figure out a way to do that same thing next year in New Orleans. Um, so that kickoff event was newsworthy, but it was also a little confusing because you had Cody step aside, so to speak, for The Rock early, on Raw, and then all of a sudden Thursday comes out. Rock comes out. He's in. Roman Reigns is out there with Paul Heyman. Rock says it's going to be The Rock versus Roman, and they throw up the family tree with all the names on it. It was really cool to see. And they decide, they're going to say it's going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and then here comes Cody. Says, "No, I'm the one that gets to choose, main event at WrestleMania because I won the Royal Rumble and I choose Roman Reigns." And then it led to, all the back and forth that led to The Rock slapping Cody Rhodes, and then Seth Rollins comes in, and it's a whole hullabaloo. Did the I mean on the telecast, YouTube, whatever, it wasn't. You could hear boos for Rock. You were there on site. How much was he being booed?
He was being booed a lot. So they have fully turned him into heel Rock. Like his music it's with Roman Reigns too. When Roman Reigns' music hits, same with when The Rock's music hits, you are going to explode. You are going to jump out of your chair. You might throw your ones up for Roman Reigns, but the second he starts talking, the boos will start because you hate him as a heel. You love that you are in the same building as him and you get to witness the entrance, but you hate him as a heel. The Rock, and I mean, just when you think about it, from showing up at SmackDown, Cody introducing him at SmackDown, and then his appearance on Pat McAfee, news got out so fast that he was becoming heel Rock. I'm very impressed with how fast they were able to make that turn of him without him doing almost anything physical up until that point.
Yeah.
The fans wanted Cody, and the WWE did a great job of recognizing the mistake that they made on SmackDown and making a quick turn to somehow make everything right. And Stu, I think in doing so, instead of getting The Rock versus Roman Reigns in a one-off at WrestleMania 40, I think they have managed to build at least a 1-year storyline involving The Rock in WWE. I think The Rock will be around, not every week, probably working less of a schedule than Roman Reigns, but I think we will see The Rock on TV for the next year.
I get that sense too, and I've heard the criticisms about, well, they didn't explain this and that. I think it kind of boils down to simply the fans got what they want, so we'll let the inconsistencies go, and I get that, and I'm with them. Now I say that as of right now, Tuesday night, February 13th, at about 7:15 p.m. Central, the main event for WrestleMania Night 2 will be Roman Reigns defending the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And by the way, they've called that thing the WWE Championship, the Universal Championship, the Undisputed. They've called it about 6 different terms. Anyway, he's going to defend that title against Cody Rhodes. Now, we saw, like I said, Rock slaps Cody. Seth Rollins tries to get involved, and you've got basically Cody and Seth on one side, Rock and Roman on the other. And even you fast forward to Monday Night Raw, Seth offers to be Cody's shield against Roman Reigns. There were some outlets that were reporting that was going to confirm. Oh, and then there was the teaser video that WWE released right before the Super Bowl, right before the game started. Yep. So there were outlets that teased, oh, it's official. We're going to have a tag match. It's going to be Cody and Seth versus Roman and Rock. Now, I have not seen anything official from WWE. I haven't even seen anything to hint that could happen. Do you think that could happen? Would it main event night 1? Because you also got not only Seth Rollins defending his world title against whoever wins Elimination Chamber. You also got Bayley and Io Sky. You got Rhea Ripley or Nia Jax defending against the winner of Elimination Chamber.
You need to give. I mean, okay. So we saw this when it was in Dallas a few years ago with Stone Cold. Mm-hmm. Stone Cold is such an incredible draw. You needed to have Stone Cold on both nights. You needed to give the people Stone Cold Steve Austin on both nights, and they had a main event night 1, and they had him show up and stun Vince and Pat McAfee on night 2. So you gave the people what they want. Rock needs to be on both nights. And whether that's a tag match in night 1 and then just in Roman's corner in night 2, I think that's what we get. I don't like the idea. I like the idea of having Roman work both nights, like having Cody and Seth versus Rock and Roman in night 1. For some reason, I don't like the idea of Seth working both nights. I don't know why. And I think that's because I feel like Seth should just defend his title in night 1 and that be it. And that be the end of it, which I think I think that the way they go with that too. And I think there's a lot to be still talked about with Seth, because Seth isn't 100%. If you believe the reports of what he injured, he's going to be pushing it real close to be ready by WrestleMania. And you need to do a lot to hide him. And I think they are doing that in a few different ways. I think that right now you see he has reached out and said that he'll help Cody. Mm-hmm. I also think that you see Cody and Sammy having some sort of relationship too backstage. And you're also seeing Drew and Sammy have there are so many different little storylines that can all tie together in the end. And I think a lot of these are significant to Seth's injury, because I think what you could have here is, and I think what will happen, my prediction for Seth's match at WrestleMania for his belt is going to be Seth versus Drew versus Sammy. I think it's going to be a triple threat match, because I think you need to have 3 guys in the ring in case something happens and Seth's knee either gives out or he's not 100% from the get-go. You need to have some way of hiding that in a match, and therefore you need to have another person in the ring to wrestle the guy that he's with.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means as far as a main event for night 1. Also, too, we don't know what's going to happen at Elimination Chamber. Like, it's the Rock and Roman. Like, and I think we find that out on Friday at SmackDown. We know that Rock and Roman are going to be at SmackDown on Friday. Mm-hmm. And we saw Cody and like, does that tag match happen in Perth?
See, that I've heard, there have been some reports that say Roman and Rock aren't going to Australia. So, you would think, okay, that's not happening, but it makes sense to have that tag match. I can see a scenario where you do have it night one of WrestleMania with Cody doing most of the heavy lifting to save Seth for his title defense. And then, like you said, have it a triple threat with Sammy, Drew, and Seth. So I can almost visualize that. I think Elimination Chamber would be great for for that tag match. Something else that makes me kind of go, So let's have the tag match, whether it's at Elimination Chamber or night one. Cody, Seth win. Rock figures out, I may be siding with the wrong guy. So Rock comes out with Roman on night two. As the match progresses, here comes Solo Sikoa, and Rock prevents Solo from interfering. Cody gets the pin. Cody wins the title. Then you set up Rock versus Roman, whether it's for WrestleMania 41, and have the year-long build or whatever.
I see though, because I think that they have set up, like I said earlier, I think they've set up a year of potential storylines for Rock, and I think that starts with him being part of the bloodline and he and Roman being on the same side. And I think what you could do is give us Rock versus Cody at SummerSlam. I think that could be your SummerSlam main event. And I also think that's the thing too. I think one of the significant things that happened at that press conference was putting Seth Rollins back into a picture with Roman Reigns. They have been separated for so long. They have not had a match with each other since the Royal Rumble here in St. Louis 3 years ago. I think that you have put him back in the picture now.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what, whether it's Sammy, whether it's Drew, whether it's Priest that cashes in, he does not leave WrestleMania with the belt. And then you can start working him back into a feud with the bloodline, which we really haven't seen. We saw Seth versus Roman. We never saw the bloodline involved. Yeah. And if you remember that match at the Royal Rumble, Roman got himself disqualified using a chair, and we haven't seen anything since then. So you could work your way to Seth versus Roman at SummerSlam now with this over the next several months. And those two matches right there would be huge main events.
Absolutely.
At SummerSlam. So that would be, I think that's where you lead from there. And then you can figure out a way to work you could find a way to work The Rock back against Roman at some point, because you also have, Seth stepped in and had Cody's back. So we could have Seth versus Rock at some point. Yeah. CM Punk was talking all kinds of trash on The Rock from their history. You could give us Punk versus Rock at some point.
Easily.
The Rock's on the board now. The Rock knows that he himself has the power to make significant money for the company and himself by putting himself in these one-off matches.
Yeah.
So I think there are so many little things that came of that. Now, the Rock slapping Cody, come on, we're going to get a one-on-one match between the two of them at some point over the next calendar year. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I can see that. The one thing, and this is, this is kind of like where the whole Rock coming out with Roman on night two. Look, in my mind, you do not have Cody repeat as Royal Rumble winner just to have him go to WrestleMania and lose again.
Why not?
You're not.
Why? I mean, but think how hated Roman and Rock would be if Cody still didn't win.
But see, that's the thing. I don't think.
I think Rock turning heel.
I don't know if the fans have the patience, because every Roman Reigns match ends the same way. There's not. I mean, it's even been every Roman Reigns match ends with Solo interfering or Jimmy interfering. It ends the same way. I got a feeling if you have them interfere again and Roman walks out of Philadelphia with the title, I think fans are going to start to turn off, because it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to, take the belt off of Roman. It just, I don't know. It feels like it feels like Cody really needs to finish his story at WrestleMania. And that's where I could see like a sudden Rock realizing and, preventing interference so Cody does hit that crossroads and gets the pin. I don't know.
They haven't announced it. It's so strange that they have not announced many of these pay-per-views for the year. I mean, my goodness, remember back in the day when we knew a year out like what pay-per-views were going to be coming up?
Oh yeah.
Like where they were going to be. You look at what they've done now, and after WrestleMania, we know Backlash is going to be in France. And then in July, Money in the Bank is in Toronto, and then in August, the Bash in Berlin is in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So can you keep, I mean, these fans, I mean, they are selling out Raws and SmackDowns left and right, 10,000 people, 9,000 people. It is capacity seating there. Right? Raw was just in St. Louis last Monday. I didn't get to go. I had a lot of friends that were there, and they said they've never seen the place so packed.
Yeah.
That it was the other day. So can you keep that going over the next? I mean, and how do you work Roman back into it, or is it going to be for the belt between Cody and Rock if they are at SummerSlam?
See, that's what I think. That's why I'm thinking they need to change. They need to change the title so that there are fresh matchups. Let Cody defend against, Rock and Drew and Jimmy Uso, and I don't know. In my mind, look, okay, so they keep touting Roman has had the belt for 1,200 and something days, and I think the only three men that are in front of him as far as longest reigns are Hogan, Backlund, and Bruno. You're not touching Bruno. That's not happening. You're not going to have Roman hold it for another 5 years. I'm pretty sure.
See him try.
No.
I sure would like to see him try.
No, don't. Let's not go. I'm pretty sure you won't touch Backlund. For him to pass Hogan, he would likely hold it. If I'm not mistaken, it would probably need to go basically to the end of this year, which basically means, yeah, he would hold it through to WrestleMania next year. Again, I don't know. I've said for 6 months, the bloodline has jumped the shark. It is time to do away with the bloodline.
I think you see though, that's where I thought the same thing until I was at that press conference on Thursday. I think that they just breathed brand new life into it by adding the biggest star in the world to the bloodline. But I think having those two, and now that the fact that they're going to be on TV together on Friday, they will be in the ring together, hand in hand. They are brothers now, and they are on the same side of this, and I think that has breathed brand new life into all of the Bloodline story, that now we get another year, maybe more out of it.
But Rock's not going to be on TV every week. He like you just said, he's going to be on TV less than Roman is, and Roman shows up what, 2 months, every 2 months, every 3
Okay,
months?
but I mean, you still know that he's around. You still know that he has a role in all of this. So the Bloodline can still remain intact. Because I think now what you have also done is you've pushed this off for Solo. At some point, too, Solo's got to turn on Roman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where
that could be 2.5 years from now.
See that I think that needs to happen like between now and SummerSlam.
It's got to make sense, though.
I think they will make it make sense, but I don't know. It just seems like they're going, if they do, I think fans will get tired of it. But then again, hey, I've been wrong before. So we've talked about the 2 women's title matches. You saw on Raw, Bayley is, her return to being a baby face. All of a sudden, here comes Io Sky and the Kabuki Warriors, and here's Dakota Kai, and then we have this uneasy interaction. Dakota's got a chair. Is she going to hit Bayley? And then Bayley turns around and she's swinging at Io and Asuka and Kairi Sane, and so. Is it going to be Bayley against the world, or does Dakota Kai, or does she find an ally in Dakota Kai?
I mean, Dakota Kai, is she cleared? Can she get physical?
And I think
that's the big, I think that's the significant part of that.
Yeah. I mean,
the other part is you have to find out who the tag champs are, or who the tag contenders are, to go against the Kabuki Warriors, and then that's who sides with Bayley.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you have to do. Maybe that's a role for Bianca and Naomi.
That's true. I think you're right.
So I think that's what you get with that. They also weren't. I mean, that's the thing. They didn't even involve them in the press conference. Bayley had to Photoshop her own head onto the press conference graphic. Bianca was there.
Rhea was there. Becky was there, but no Bayley.
Yeah.
Your 2024 Women's Royal Rumble winner, not involved in the press conference.
Yeah.
Kind of odd. I don't know. Sami Zayn been on a losing streak as of late. Loses to Shinsuke on Raw thanks to Drew McIntyre. We talked about possible, Sami getting added to a triple threat at Mania for Seth's title. It's got to, but they got to prop him up somehow. I guess maybe it's something with, because he's not going to, or at least as of now, he's not in the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah,
he lost his bout to Randy Orton. So how does Sami get to that world title match at Mania?
I'm not sure of that route yet, but they are doing a really good job of knocking him down, making him this ultimate underdog, which Sami Zayn plays the role of really well and has many times in his career. And they're having the pre-show chats, he and Kathy Kelly or Jackie Redmond, I can't remember who it was with, like they're sitting in the stadium, in the empty stadium, talking about stuff, and you could tell there's a plan for Sami. You could tell they have something, they have something cooking for him. And I think prior to the Punk injury, I think it was clear it was just going to be Drew versus Sami. Like that was just going to be a WrestleMania match, was going to be Drew versus Sami. But now that they've had to turn to plan C, with with Punk being injured and nobody liking the idea of Seth versus Cody, they're like, okay, who's next? Drew is doing phenomenal work right now. This is the best Drew McIntyre has been in such a long time. And you already have that worked in, that built-in feud between him and Sammy, that it is it makes sense to put him in there. And like I mentioned earlier, you need that third guy in the ring with Seth, because also it's not going to hurt Seth as much if he loses the title without being pinned for it. Or if Damian Priest comes down and just pins Sammy and makes it a 4. I mean, there are multiple ways they could go about doing that, and Seth saves face, and you either have this great moment with Sami Zayn becoming a champ, or Damian Priest stealing it away. I don't think Drew gets the title, but I think what Drew is doing right now is just phenomenal work, with the fact that he's making complete sense with everything that he says about why fans should like him and how he's not the bad guy and he's doing everything right, but he's also doing so in a way where you absolutely hate him so much. Mm-hmm. And you will, by the time you get to that match, you will want to see Sammy just beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is Joe Roderick. Check out all of his stuff on Pro Wrestling Talk STL. Joe, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, next year the tag team's back together in New Orleans.
I missed you so much this past year, Stu. I told everybody I talked to that I saw that knew you. I told them how much I missed you and how much I was lost all last week being there by myself. I went for the first time ever. I went to the Ditka Jaws cigar party.
Nice.
Stu, it was 41 degrees and they held the party outdoors.
Oh.
But I stayed for an hour and I walked around to every booth and I grabbed every cigar they would hand me. And I went to the post office today and I mailed them all to your house. So you have cigars on their way down to Austin, Texas to you.
I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. And I miss being there with you. All the best to you, man. Continue recovering from Las Vegas. By the way, what did you think of the game? What did you think of Super Bowl 58?
That fourth quarter and overtime sure were exciting, but leading up to that, oof. I got a 10-year-old, Stu, and we watched the Nickelodeon feed, and I loved the Nickelodeon feed on Sunday. Yeah, they did a good job. Noah Eagle and Nate Burleson had a lot of fun calling that game with SpongeBob and Patrick.
That was cool. All right, Joe, all the best. We'll talk again soon.
All right, see ya.